Welcome, Colorado State.
Hey there, CSU. Good evening, Fort Collins. Hey guys,
I'm your host, Jacky Wilson.
I'm Jacky Wilson, still Jacky Wilson, and this is Ram Rants. Ram Rants, and possibly the heart and soul of CTV.
Hopefully there's some good news that comes out of this that are a little poetic and a little outlandish.
Oh, there it is. There we go. We're gonna try something totally new. All right, cheers.
Cheers.
Check it out.
Good evening, Rams. I'm your host, Jacky Wilson, and welcome to another episode of Ram Rants. Tonight, we're celebrating Black History Month, and we have Khalil Perkins from the Black African American Cultural Center here at CSU to talk about events this month, including the mother of Trayvon Martin, who's coming to speak at CSU. Later, we'll talk to Peter Backlund of the School for Global Environmental Sustainability. So, Khalil, we'll have you first. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, well, thank you for having me here.
Of course. So, tell us a little bit about your role at the back office.
Well, my role at the back office is I'm a peer coordinator, so that means I work in the office and I also am a peer mentor.
Okay.
Each peer coordinator is assigned approximately 11 to 12 mentees. So what I do is I schedule appointments with my directors and also with my mentees. I'm just here pretty much a support system, so whether or not they want to utilize me, that's up to them.
Very cool, and that's just one of the many services that the back offices provide. Can you tell me a little bit more about kind of the things that they do for us students?
For the Black African American Cultural Center, considering that CSU is a predominantly white institution, we like to provide a home for our students. So we embrace culture. During passing periods, if students want to stop by, grab a snack, get something to eat, they're more than welcome. And we also provide just wonderful counseling and just we're that backbone for students. A lot of students can feel intimidated, especially in their classrooms. There's other students coming up to them, questioning them about either why is their hair like this or just, you know, cultural questions, nothing really to intentionally be offensive, but can offend many. So.
Absolutely. And I like that whole backbone thing with backbone in the back office, right? Good play on words. So we do have this awesome event coming up with the Trayvon Martin and his mom's coming to speak. So can you tell me a little bit about what that event will look like?
All right, so Sabrina Fulton is her name, but she is speaking just pretty much about her story and how that's affected her life. She's promoting activism and just really taking you into her whole experience. And as she speaks, I haven't heard her speak live, but she's very powerful with her words.
Very neat. Yeah. And I mean, we were talking a little bit earlier about the Trayvon Martin case and kind of how it relates to the Michael Brown case. And when there is such a heated atmosphere regarding such racial tensions, how does the back office kind of handle these kinds of situations?
Well, what I will say is there's many things that are going into effect, but not necessarily from the back office perspective, but me as an individual. I would like to say me going into this, and I have a lot of questions from just friends that are curious on how I feel as a biracial male, African American and Korean descent. What I get from this is I want people to further their understanding of each situation and culture in general, because there's a lot of people that make necessarily comments or they want to do something but not necessarily in the correct way.
Definitely.
And this is where you get that political controversy of what does it mean when someone says Black Lives Matter,
right,
versus when someone says all lives matter. And from my prior understanding, when somebody says Black Lives Matter, or even the concept of Black nationalism, is certain things like this have been happening, you know, on, and pretty much we're just putting it to life, to light, necessarily. Yeah. So that's just from my personal perspective, is just to further your understanding, just even on history.
Interesting. Very cool. And so obviously the back office has this great support system, awesome peer mentors and things like that. What kind of other events does the back office provide?
Oh, well, we have a plethora of different events. We have our Real Talk, which is every Tuesday at 4 o'clock, LSC room 335, where we discuss controversial topics such as maybe Mike Brown or Trayvon Martin or just interracial couples, et cetera, and that's just between all of the students. And we have two of our peer coordinators, Aaliyah Jones and Adrian Jones, that coordinate that. And also, we have an annual retreat every year, which is in Estes Park, and that's pretty much letting our students know that identify as Black or African American, that this is your home.
Right.
We have a home for you just in case you're feeling lost. And that's a retreat for 3 days in Estes Park.
Oh,
and
wow.
we do a lot of team building and bonding activities. It's very, very high tense. It gets pretty emotional. So.
Oh, I bet. Those kinds of events always really tug at your heartstrings, I feel like, especially when you have that kind of intensity for 3 days. Very cool, very cool. So tell me about this open mic night that's coming up right after the show.
So the open mic night is pretty much an event where you can sing, you could do poetry, you could go up there and dance, you can do stand-up comedy, and that's in the Ramskeller from 6:30 tonight, so right now till 8:30.
What better of a place?
And it's just a night for students to really express themselves.
Very cool.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier about sometimes if you're not part of the Black African American community, you can feel intimidated maybe by coming to these kinds of events. Is it open to all students, or?
Oh, most definitely. All students are welcome. We actually encourage that just because we pride ourselves on embracing culture, and we don't have a problem with anyone trying to embrace culture with us. So anyone's welcome. You don't have to identify as Black or African American to be a part of our office. We'll make you feel like you have home.
Wonderful. Well, Khalil, thank you so much. This has been so much fun.
Oh, well, thank you.
And it's great to kind of get this new cultural perspective, especially during this wonderful month that we're celebrating Black history. Before we go, is there any one role model that you really have that sticks out for you for Black History Month?
I would say one role model, more than likely Dr. Mark Lamont Hill. We had him come speak last week on Thursday in the North Ballroom, and it really empowered me as far as seeking my education to a different degree. This man reads about 5 to 6 books a week.
Wow.
I mean, that's also because he's so busy catching flights everywhere, all across the nation. But nonetheless, he came up and he spoke, not necessarily about a post-racial society, but a post-racist society, because nonetheless, you cannot get across of who I am. You know, that would be demoralizing to not identify my identity.
Yeah.
So it was just very empowering on just how he spoke, and he didn't have any script, and it was just all knowledge, background knowledge, and it made me want to seek my education
Very cool.
a lot differently.
Neat. Well, Khalil, thank you again for being here with us. It's been a blast. It's been so fun.
Thank you.
All right, well, happy Black History Month to all of us. And when we come back, we'll sit down with Peter Backlund, the Associate Director of the School of Global Environmental Sustainability. They're having quite the event next week. Stay tuned.
Oh, hey there, Rams. Today is a great day to play in the LSC. So let's take a look at our ballrooms, theater, and art galleries. The LSC ballrooms, which are the busiest venue in northern Colorado, have been recently renovated. The Laurie Student Center Theater can be transformed to feature films, concerts, lectures, entertainment, and banquets. And last but not least, the Kerfman Gallery provides a showcase for the creations of local and student artists.
It's cold outside today, Rams. What better way to warm up than to gather in the LSC? The new and improved Senate chambers located in the renovated ASCSU office was modeled to match the state legislature in Denver. Reserve the Longs Peak Meeting Room in room 302. There are approximately 23 other new meeting rooms designed for your needs. Reserve one of these rooms through the event planning office.
Hey guys, and welcome back. Let's continue the show with our next guest, the Associate Director of the School of Global Environmental Sustainability, Peter Backlund. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Jackie. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, we're so glad to have you. And that's a mouthful, but the School of Global Environmental Sustainability. Tell us what that means to you.
Well, so our school, we're really the place for environmental sustainability here at CSU, concentrating on the science and education aspects of it. Environmental sustainability, to me, really is taking care of the human needs, current and future human needs, while maintaining the environment and taking care of the earth, too. So it's balancing those two factors. that's what our school is all about.
Very cool. And I mean, we've only got one Earth, right? We might as well take care of it.
That is true.
What are some of the ways that the School of Global Environmental Sustainability is kind of taking steps toward educating about this topic?
Well, we offer a minor here at CSU in sustainability as a topic. We really like having it as a minor because it lets students combine the study of sustainability with other topics, which we think is really important.
Right.
So we're all about that, and that's our main focus really. But we also sponsor research to improve our understanding of various aspects of sustainability, and we have a lot of communications activities that we do to get the word out.
Very cool. And I love how you mentioned that you can kind of pair it with all these different things, like you can do sustainability minor but do fashion and learn how to do recyclable clothing or something like that. That's very neat.
You know, what's interesting is that I think our single biggest group of students in the minor are people that are majoring in interior design, which I find to be quite fascinating, actually.
That is cool. I mean, there's all those really popular TV shows on like HGTV and stuff
Right.
about these sustainable homes, and this guy lives in a 2-foot box, but wait till you see what it looks like on the inside, and things
Exactly.
like that. Very neat. But you also mentioned some of the communication strategies that you guys use. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Well, we have a kind of a wide array of things that we do. We have a series of lectures and events that we sponsor every year, pretty much almost weekly, really, and certainly monthly. We also have panel discussions. We have receptions for authors that we host in our offices over in Johnson Hall. So a whole set of events going on all the time that you can find on our website. You know, so there's a big list there.
Very cool. And you guys have quite the event coming up. You've got this big lecture series on the Antarctic. Will you tell me a little bit about that? Because it sounds fascinating.
Yeah, so we've been doing this for a while, the Antarctic Lecture Series, and it highlights different aspects of science that goes on in Antarctica. What's really cool about this thing next week is that we're combining a film screening and a panel discussion. So we're going to have a film called A Year on the Ice, which examines, just like the title says, it examines a whole year in Antarctica and what it's like for the researchers down there that spend the whole year.
Yeah.
So going through long periods of time when there's no sunlight at all to periods of time when it's all sunlight.
Wow.
Going from super cold to cold. It never really gets warm in Antarctica. You know, so it's about the grandeur and wildness of Antarctica, but it's also kind of about the adventure of doing science down there. Then right after the film, we're going to have a panel of 4 professors here at CSU that do research in Antarctica and spend time down there. So you'll get like the film version and then the real life version all rolled into one event.
Perfect. That way you can ask some questions because you can't really ask a TV the questions.
That's true.
Very cool. And we were talking about that crazy having full days of sunlight and then full days of nighttime. How crazy would that be? Can you imagine?
I can hardly imagine. I've been in the Arctic. I've never been to Antarctica. I've been in the Arctic where it stays light, you know, really late in the summer, and it's very disorienting. But you know, I think after a while you get used to it.
Crazy. What was it? The penguins are in one, and the polar bears are in the other. Which
Polar bears in the Arctic, penguins in Antarctica.
Oh, okay, there we go. So
Yes.
if we want, we get to see the penguins in this series.
I think there will be some penguins in this movie.
Perfect. There we go. Oh, there we go. We have to see it. Happy feet, right? All right. So what are some of the other lecture events that you guys have got going on? And I know you do something pretty cool at AVOS.
Yeah, so we have these regular panel discussions at AVOS pretty much once, maybe twice a month. Actually, in a nice tie into the previous speaker, we're co-sponsoring one next week, actually, later in the week after the film. So this will be on the 26th, co-sponsored event with Women, Population, and the Environment, and it's a panel discussion on Black environmentalism. And this is part of Black History Month as well, so that's kind of cool. Then in early March, we're having another one of these Managing the Planet sessions devoted to fracking. And these events at AVOS, they're not like traditional academic lectures. What they are is we have a panel of people sitting up on the stage. They say maybe 2 or 3 minutes worth of background on themselves so people know what they do. But then the whole event is just a dialogue with the audience. So people can ask any questions they want.
Wow.
They get response. The panelists talk a little bit with each other. So it's really kind of a fun, non-traditional kind of event.
Yeah, definitely like a nice relaxed environment where you can feel like you can kind of have a nice discussion about
Exactly.
those kinds of things. Very cool. And fracking, that's a hot button topic, especially here in Fort Collins.
It really is a hot button topic, and there's a lot of claims being made on both sides of the issue. It's clearly very economically beneficial, and that's important, but there's also going to be environmental costs associated with it, and the picture isn't completely clear yet. That makes me think about another event that we're having later in March. We're bringing in one of the top researchers on this topic, a guy named Rob Jackson from Stanford, and he's going to talk about what you could call the environmental footprint of unconventional gas and oil. So it's really, this guy, he's a really well-known and eminent scientist, and he's really taking the approach of we need to actually measure what's going on. So he's trying to get at the facts as opposed to just all the assertions being made on both sides, and that should be a really interesting lecture.
Definitely, that's refreshing to have some kind of cold, hard facts, especially when you're dealing with science. I know I'm not necessarily the most scientifically inclined, so when I see the numbers, it's a little easier for me to grasp than just these claims being thrown around. Very cool. So for those of us that don't know a whole lot about the fracking situation, can you kind of fill us in on what the global environmental sustainability kind of section of that topic is about?
Well, so what makes it interesting to us is, going back to what I said about what sustainability is, it's balancing human needs and environmental needs. Another way to look at that is that there are social factors in sustainability, there's economic factors, and there's environmental factors. So fracking just fits right in the middle of all that. It's this new technique that's been developed over really a new application of an old technique, I think is a better way to say it, that's really become prominent in the past decade or so. It's leading to explosive economic growth in some states, a huge amount of new drilling activities. You can see that right here in Colorado, but it's also a lot of this going on in Pennsylvania, in North Dakota, other states. So there's this big economic boom. The question is, what's the cost of that boom in environmental terms, and how do we best balance the environmental values and the economic values? So it's really a classic issue of sustainability, and it's playing out right here in front of us right now.
That's so crazy, and it blows my mind too. I mean, there's obviously so many factors, but I mean, this has been a problem that's been going on for so long too, and it still seems like we can't find the most perfect solution, right? We can't make everybody happy. It's crazy. But being that it is Black History Month, will you tell me a little bit more about that themed lecture you have going on?
Yeah, so it's going to be a panel over there at Avogadro's number, and it's titled, the actual formal title of it is African Americans in Nature, Exploring Black Environmentalists. And so I think there's going to be a group of people, some historians, some people from the Women's Center, that'll be talking about activities of Black scientists and environmentalists that aren't as well known as a lot of other activities. So I think it's really a cool chance to it's kind of more on the social side of sustainability, right? There's issues, economic, environmental, and social, and that'll integrate environment and social issues, I think.
Yeah, definitely. That's very cool, especially during this month of February where we're celebrating Black history anyway. Very neat. And I love that you mentioned that you're kind of integrating all these different arenas when you're talking about global environmental sustainability. How do you think is the best way to balance that? Like, is there any easy answer to that question?
I would say there's really no easy answers. That's why we have our school. What we really want is to show students that they have to consider the problem from multiple angles, right? And my generation is not going to be the one that solves sustainability. It's going to be your generation and the generation after you.
Right.
A lot has to happen to make the planet sustainable in the next 100 years. And I'm convinced that there's a lot we can do. I'm quite hopeful, actually, even though we face such a wide range of environmental problems.
Definitely. Well, that was great to hear about. It's good to end on that positive note. Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing that with us. Of course, we look forward to these events that are coming up. It'll be exciting. So, well, Rams, it's about that time, unfortunately. But thank you for tuning in so much. I'm Jacky Wilson, and you guys have a great night.